So you've bought a really nice grain mill. You may even have upgraded your stand mixer to something like a Bosch Universal or the Anarskam. And you're super excited about grinding your own grains, making those fresh breads and the cookies and the muffins and the pancakes and all the things. But surprise, you make it and your family hates it. What do? Hey everyone, welcome back to Grains and Grit. My name is Felicia, and on this channel I talk all the things about true healthy whole grains from a biblical mindset, all about milling your own wheat, making your own baked goods, all that stuff. So that's something that sounds great, then be sure to subscribe below. This is something that I've actually received from several of y'all where you are super excited about finally milling your own wheat, making bread, but yet your family just rejects it. They're picky eaters, or they just prefer their white, fluffy white bread, their junk food, things like that. And you're actually on a different path than them. So what do? As many of y'all know, I started milling my grains about almost 11 years now, but it's definitely been at least a decade, a little bit longer. And I did it actually before my husband and I had children. So all of my children have been raised on true whole grains. So I actually don't have the experience of having to convert my family to freshly milled grains, because on top of that, when we started, my husband was 110% on board. He is always in favor of eating healthier, baking from scratch, all of those things. And I'm super thankful because I have definitely had some wonky experiments go bad, and you know, we may have had to do takeout pizza or something. So I'm super thankful for my husband that he definitely supports me on this journey. But I do know there are some of you out there, maybe many of you, who, you know, your family isn't as supportive. So I'm going to be giving you some ideas that hopefully can help you to convert your family over to true whole grains from the white fake stuff that they're probably used to. So before we get into the tips, one thing that you have to understand is there's no amount of nagging, of arguing, or anything like that that you can do that is going to persuade your family to do this. You can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. And for you women out there, I'll go ahead and tell you, as a wife, I have never known a single husband to crawl out from under his wife's nagging and become a better person and do what she thinks is right. So for all you wives out there, back off. If your husband wants to eat that white bread, if he chooses to stuff himself with M&Ms all day, remember, he's an adult. He's not your child. And, you know, you're just going to have to let that slide. Don't make it ruin your marriage or anything like that for that. With that being said, your children are your children. And you definitely have a little bit more control with them. And I'm going to give you tips, again, both dealing with husbands or spouses, and also your children. So tip number one that I say is, first of all, make it easy on them. Do not, if they absolutely reject the loaf bread, things like that, and they won't eat it, okay, well, start with cookies. Chocolate chip cookies, oatmeal cookies, recipes that I've done before. I will certainly link them below. Also muffins, pancakes. Do the favorites that are definitely more of your sweeter type breads to entice them, but they're soft, they're good. I mean, they're even better than store-bought. I mean, I don't know a single child that is going to reject some really good chocolate chip cookies. So start with that. Don't freak out about, oh, they're having sugar. It's not as healthy. It's just the bread. Yes, there is added sugar, but why are you doing this? Is it to feed your family more whole grains, true whole grains, to give them all of that fiber and nutrients and the benefit of the whole grains? Well, you can do that through cookies, muffins, and pancakes. So do it. Yes, it has a little bit more sugar, but that's a huge thing that I encourage you to do is, you know, start with the really good stuff. I mean, I know that's kind of cheating, but start with it. Second tip that I give you is if you're wanting to convert them with a loaf bread, and eventually you are going to want to do this. First of all, and I know this may seem as a bit of a shock that I am saying this, is make a loaf with store-bought flour. Yes, yes, I just said it. Make bread, homemade bread with store-bought flour. Get them used to homemade bread with the light and fluffy fake stuff. Get them used to that. They're already eating it, and you're gonna be working on the long-term goal here. We're playing the long game. First, start with really good loaves from store-bought flour. Now, I do recommend getting a good store-bought flour. So I really like King Arthur because you can at least get the unbleached flour, and it's just a really good flour. So King Arthur brand, any sort of unbleached flour. So try and do better. There are organic flours as well. So you can do better than just your really super cheap bleached out the wazoo type stuff. So do that first. Make the loaf with all store-bought flour, with regular all-purpose flour or bread flour. Then, after maybe, 2 weeks, maybe even a month, start adding in some of your freshly milled wheat. Now, when you do this, do not tell them. Do not tell anyone your plan. We have to be sneaky here. Don't tell anyone your plan. So from that store-bought flour, then use 75% of your store-bought flour and 25% of freshly milled wheat added to it. And stick with that for about 2 weeks, maybe even a month, for them to get used to it. And then you up it again. Go half and half. 2 weeks to a month doing that, or however long it takes for them to get used to this, where you can up it and they kind of not notice. That's the goal, is for them to kind of not notice. It's kind of like the whole how, boiling a frog is. You put the frog in the water, you turn it on, it's cold water, and then you slowly heat it up, and before long you've got a cooked frog because he's gotten used to the water and it's boiling water. We're not trying to kill your family here, but similar analogy. So with that, you do 50-50, and then you go 75% freshly milled grains, 25% all-purpose flour, and before you know it, you should be able to work up to 100% freshly milled wheat, and your family has been converted. Now, another thing to remember, especially with kids, that with your 100% freshly milled wheat, if they absolutely don't want the crust, I might let that one go, especially for the younger guys. Just let it go, because let's face it, that is a little bit of the bread. I know there's still really some good stuff in that crust, but are they eating the bread? Yeah, okay, then, sometimes you just have to let it slide with not eating the crust. Again, the purpose here is for them to get those good whole grains into their bodies, and we're trying to be sneaky about it and help them along with this. For those of you who have ever had a sugar addiction, anything like that, it is hard. It is tough to get rid of that addiction. And really, this is what it is. People who you've grown up with all the fake stuff, it's hard to convert the real stuff because it's not as good. It doesn't have the MSGs in it or the sugar that's going to make your brain light up and say, yay, give me more. So we do have to remember that. Now, again, it is easier, I think, with children to kind of convert them over, especially young children. And you're just going to have to work with that. Be patient. Constantly offer that to them. And more importantly, your children need to see you eat it and enjoy it yourself. If you don't like it, they ain't gonna like it. So with me, I know with my family, with vegetables, my husband and I, we definitely eat the vegetables, and I always eat them even if they may not be my favorite. And I don't say that out loud to the kids, because the moment I say I don't like it, suddenly they don't like it either. Same process. So even though maybe you messed up on the recipe a little bit, but no need to tell them that. Just eat a little bit of it, show them. And even if you don't like it, because let's face it, we don't like everything. I don't like all vegetables. I don't like all fruits, and that's okay. And just be honest with your child and just say, you know what, you don't have to like it, but you're gonna eat it. At least that's how it works in my house. There's no room for picky eaters in my house. No. We do not do picky eaters in my house. What is served for supper is what is served for supper. Call me old school, or, that I'm hurting my children or whatever. I do not have the budget to be making individual meals for everyone, nor do I have the time. So, little side note there. Okay, as far as converting your spouse, again, like I said at the beginning, remember, they're adults, okay? You can lead a horse to water, but you can't force them to drink. Do not ruin your marriage over this. But a big tip is consume it yourself. Let them see the changes that happen in you. Possibly you start losing weight, or you're just not gaining weight, or you start feeling great, things like that. And slowly but surely, they might get excited and want to do what you're doing. If you're excited about it, do not nag. Do not argue. It will not work. It's not going to work, y'all. It ain't going to work. So do that. And again, if they want cookies, if they love cookies, do it. If they love certain recipes, try to do your own version of that with the freshly milled wheat. And it's a lot easier to kind of sneak it into things. So for example, gravy, make it with freshly milled wheat. Puddings, make it with freshly milled wheat. You know, things like that where it's just a little bit, but at least you're getting it in there. So again, I do not have the experience of having to convert anyone in my family, but these are definitely the steps that I would do if I was starting now. And now that I have kids and I have a husband, and what if my husband wasn't on board, or my kids are used to all the junk food, things like that. These are the steps that I would take. It's baby steps. You have to just introduce a little bit at a time and don't give up. Keep offering, keep introducing. And at the very, very least, do it yourself, because you're going to feel better and you're going to feel great. And I do believe that leading by example is a big, big deal. That's one of the biggest testimonies of all. When people start seeing you look better, you feeling great, whatever it is that you have, you're in better health, people are going to want to know what you're doing. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. I know this is probably a shorter video and I'm in a different setting because, you know, things happening in the house. But as always, I will be linking things in the description box below. You know, if you're curious what mills I use, what tools I use, where I buy my grains. We do have also a membership for you elite supporters out there wanting more. Be sure to check out the description box below. And as always, I hope you have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next week. Bye.